We have to tell someone.
Who will believe us? He's Papa. Everyone loves him.
If we stay quiet, it will never stop.
But the small village of Nkwele woke up with the gentle hum of morning activity. The sun's rays filtered through the dense palm trees, casting golden light over the thatched roofs. In the Okeke household, a single sparrow perched on the windowsill, chirping, oblivious to the tension simmering inside. Adaeze, the youngest daughter, sat at the corner of the kitchen, her small hands rhythmically grinding cassava. Her movements were automatic, her eyes unfocused as she stared into the distance. Papa Okeke was a respected man in the village, known for his booming laughter and hearty advice at gatherings. But behind closed doors, he was a different man. A tyrant whose wrath fell unpredictably on his family. Adaeze often heard her mother's voice, soft and pleading, telling the children to stay out of their father's way. It was a warning she carried like a burden, never daring to challenge it. The incident had started small, as it always did. Adaeze had spilled a pot of water on the kitchen floor while trying to fetch it for her father. His reaction was swift and brutal, a slap that sent her reeling. Her cheeks burned as much from the sting as from the humiliation.
You useless girl! Do you know how hard I work to provide for you?
Mama Okeke had been there, but her protest was weak. Ekene, she's just a child, she said, wringing her hands nervously. But her words held no weight. She averted her gaze as Adaeze's tears fell silently. It wasn't the first time she had seen this, and deep down, Adaeze knew it wouldn't be the last. That evening, Adaeze sat with her brother, Chinedu, in their small shade room. Chinedu, just 3 years older, was her protector, her confidant.
We have to tell someone.
Who will believe us? He's Papa. Everyone loves him.
If we stay quiet, it will never stop.
But Chinedu was determined. His words planted a seed of courage in Adaeze's heart, though fear still loomed like a storm cloud. 2 weeks later, the inevitable happened. Papa Okeke's anger fled when Adaeze accidentally broke a plate while washing dishes. This time, his rage knew no bounds. He grabbed her by the arm, dragging her into the living room as she screamed for mercy. But something shifted that day. Mama Okeke, who had always stood silently in the shadows, stepped forward. "Ekene, enough," she yelled, her voice firm. Papa Okeke froze, his hand mid-air, as if shocked by her audacity. "What are you doing to this family?" she continued, her voice trembling but resolute. The shouting drew the attention of neighbors, who gathered outside the house. Whispers spread like wildfire. "What is going on in the Okeke household?" they murmured. The shame of public exposure seemed to dim Papa Okeke's fury, but his glare spoke volumes. While the chaos unfolded, Chinedu slipped out of the house. He ran to the village square where the elders often sat under the large baobab tree, discussing village matters. Breathless, he explained what had been happening behind closed doors. The elders, shocked and angered by the revelations, wasted no time. They summoned Papa Okeke to the square that evening. The entire village gathered, their faces aged with curiosity and indignation. "Ekene Okeke," the chief began, his voice stern. "Is it true that you have been mistreating your family?" For the first time, Papa Okeke looked small, stripped of his usual bravado. He stammered, attempting to justify his actions, but the crowd's disapproving murmurs drowned him out. The chief declared that such behavior would not be tolerated in the community. Papa Okeke was ordered to leave the family home and undergo a public apology. In the days that followed, the Okeke household felt lighter, though the scars of the past lingered. Mama Okeke worked tirelessly to rebuild her children's trust, especially Adaeze's. Chinedu took on a protective role, ensuring his sister felt safe at all times. Adaeze, though still wary, began to find joy in small things. Her embroidery, the laughter of her siblings, and the freedom to make mistakes without fear. She still carried the memories of her father's rage, but she also carried the knowledge that she was not alone. Months later, the Okeke family sat together under the stars. The warmth of their bond, a stark contrast to the cold tension that had once defined their home. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to walk it together. For the first time in years, Adaeze felt a sense of hope. Their home, once a prison of fear, had become a sanctuary of love and resilience. The village elders' decision brought a ripple of change, not only to the Okeke family, but also to the wider community. For years, the fear of shame and ostracism had kept many families silent about their struggles. But Adaeze's story sparked quiet courage among others. One by one, women began to speak of their own pains, and the elders, spurred by the gravity of what they had uncovered, established regular gatherings to address family and community issues. Months after her father's departure, Adaeze stood in front of her school during a special assembly. Her teacher had encouraged her to share her story, not to expose the pain, but to inspire resilience. With trembling hands but a steady voice, she spoke of fear, of love, and of finding courage in the face of oppression. When she finished, the applause that erupted wasn't just for her words, but for the spirit she embodied. Years later, Adaeze would reflect on the night everything changed. She had grown into a confident young woman. Her past no longer a shadow, but a source of strength. Her family, though still healing, had found a sense of purpose in helping others. Mama Okeke often spoke at village meetings, advocating for the protection of women and children. Chinedu, inspired by his sister's bravery, pursued a career in law, determined to fight for justice, and Adaeze herself became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone in Kweli that even in darkest times, a spark of courage could light the way of a brighter future.